So we're going to begin with the textual story, a story that was created, we think, around 500 BC, but in fact was set 2,000 years before that. One of the most important figures in that story, Yao, the Emperor Yao. If we take the early textual record and look at that in terms of the kinds of ways in which people understood the beginning of civilization, then they typically begin with culture heroes. And by this I mean that they're not gods. It's very important, they're not gods. They are human figures who do things that are beneficial to civilization. These stories do not begin with the creation of the world. They do not begin with some figure outside of the world who creates it and gives it to humankind. Humans are in the world, but they are no different from animals. And the culture heroes, in a sense, are transforming humankind into us, into civilized beings. Humans were fighting with animals to survive, and the culture heroes create nets so they can fish and feed themselves, create hoes so that they can dig and plant grain so they don't have to be hunters. Basically, it's saying they change them from hunter and gatherers to fishermen and farmers. So we can see in these early stories that certain figures, people, individuals, human leaders, come forth and invent things, create things that will be beneficial to human life, to the human community. This is, in some sense, a big idea about Chinese civilization, that civilization exists to improve the lives of people, to improve the lives of humans, and to bring order and proper arrangement to human society. I'm going to skip a number of figures that we could talk about. The Yellow Emperor, for example, is a famous one. Shen Nung, or the divine farmer or husbandman, is another, and jump right into the three figures of Yao, Shun, and Yu. These are the figures with which the Book of Documents, the Classic of Documents, begins. And the story goes something like this, that Yao suddenly appears, he's named, it said, he looked back, he did all these things. But what did Yao do? In some sense, Yao is inventing government. This, by the traditional chronology, this would have been around 2,400 years BC. But when we read the text, what we see is that Yao pays attention to the cycles of the sun and moon, and with that, he creates a calendar so that the agricultural seasons could follow their proper course. But he has two kinds of calendars. He has a solar calendar, which is necessary for agriculture, and a lunar calendar, which is necessary for counting the months. And he brings these two into congruence. He delegates his authority to officials of the four quarters. So in other words, he says, you will go out and govern on my behalf. Everything doesn't have to go to me. And finally, he harmonizes the many people over whom he ruled. Now, this notion of harmonizing ought to remind us a bit of some of the slogans in China today of the Hexie Shehui, the harmonious society. And although they don't use the exact word Hexie in these ancient documents, they do use the word harmonious as that which Yao is doing to the peoples. So Yao turns to the natural world, the sun and the moon, heaven and earth in the Chinese parlance, for models of organization. There's no intelligent design in this world. The emperor, the ruler, the king looks to that world and says, these are the models I will follow. He learns how to delegate authority, and he learns that government's role is to bring harmony to the world. But there's something else that Yao does that's very important, and that comes up with the figure of Shun, the second ruler, the one to whom Yao gives the world, to improve the lives of humans, and to bring order and proper arrangement to human society.